Good morning, everyone. I cannot find my headphones. So I am just gonna do it this way. I was like, all right, I'm waving the white flag. I have no idea. We had Brian's brother and sister um over yesterday, and I must have put them out of the way, and now I don't know where I put them. So sorry about that. I was like, oh no. Okay, but my audio should be good. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, depending where you're tuning in from. Oh man. I hope you all had a really great weekend. Um, a few things I did get to see. Oh, thank you, Synth. Yesterday was the last day to see Van Gogh's Starry Night at the Met. We had gone on Thursday, and it was full. So basically you have to get to the museum and then do a QR code to get on the waiting list. And then you have to wait for them to basically say that you're good to go into the exhibit because it was at capacity. So we got there early Thursday only to find out that the wait list was so full that they blocked out for the rest of the day. So we were like, oh my gosh. And then Friday was too crazy. Saturday, we actually went to our friend's property, which was really, really great. We had gone like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. They were having a housewarming and it was so much fun. So we went again to go hang out. So we were like, oh, Saturday is not going to work. So Sunday, the very last day. So we got there early. We signed up for the queue, and we were able to do it. So it was actually the exhibit was to celebrate his so basically his all his cypress paintings. So cypress is a type of tree. It grows very upright. And so if you recognize Starry Night, so that is a cypress tree. So that's why I thought maybe today would be fun to talk about trees when I was but here we go. So Brian and I got to go. Oh, here is the glare. Let me see. There we go. So we got to see Starry Night, and then a bunch of other cypress paintings that Van Gogh had created during that period. Um, really, really beautiful. Here we go. Really cool. And they're so textured up front. Um, like holy moly, like it's just layers of like paint. It feels, I mean, obviously you can't touch it, but it's like it looks yeah, like it's crazy, very, very textured, all like the paint on top of one another. And then what was cool is they also had letters by Van Gogh to his brother Theo, in which he spoke about this like obsession with cypress trees. And then he was even sketching out a painting that he was working on to kind of show him how he was showcasing the cypress tree. And then he had a bunch of like ink drawings on paper of different cypress trees that he would kind of do first, and then kind of explore um doing paintings of. And yeah, it was so beautiful. And these are relatively small paintings, so they're not like huge, huge, huge paintings. But I'm very happy that we at least got um to see them in person before the exhibit closed. Um, but yeah, so wanted to share that. It just and what was really cool too is when, of course, we had to make a stop at the bookshop, at the Met gift shop, and they had a whole section on plant books. And so there were a few that I have, and so I was telling Brian, I was like, I have that one, I have that one, I have that one. Um, But there's a couple in here I had never seen before. So I took a picture because I was like, all right, I'm going to get a couple of these. Yeah, and so here, like I have that one, I have this one, I have this one. So, um, so yeah, there's a couple I don't of these plant books that I don't have. Um, so I was like, oh gosh, this is bad. Because yeah, makes me add a whole round to my list. Um, oh no, no, not cypress trees, just little like a little branch on my nails here. Gotta get them redone. But yeah, these are just little kind of, oh, nothing in specific, nothing specific, just a little leaf that my artist did. Wow, 91 in Florida, in Orlando. Yeah, it was really hot yesterday. But it's super cloudy today. I think what are we looking at today? Um, oh, that's
Hurricane in the Gulf.
oh, really?
Yeah, it's headed this way, but Wednesday maybe.
Oh
Maybe not. You know
no.
how unpredictable they are. I'm hoping that it just kind of fizzes out before it comes across the state.
Oh, I
Or
hope
or it
so.
looks like Orlando's not going to get hit, but the Gulf will. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, the weather. Oh,
crazy, I know.
yeah. And is it the are we in the middle of hurricane season? Or
Yeah,
is
actually, hurricane season probably ends like November, October, November.
Oh, okay.
It was that late. Yeah.
Jeez. No, I,
So
I was
I
watching
know.
videos of folks like during Hillary, with
Right.
people with sandbags all around, and
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
like,
the counties will supply the bags. All you have to do is go over and go up to the county court, wherever your county is, and you can fill the bags and take them back, yeah, to home.
oof,
That will help water from coming, seeping in through the doorways.
yeah,
Wow.
oh man. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to any
Oh,
any storms here. Our basement always gets flooded.
really? Wow.
If it rains hard enough, it gets flooded. And so uh
Drainage problems, evidently. Yeah.
yeah, I mean this gosh, this building, I think it's like a 1930.
Mhm. Pretty
Yeah,
old. Yeah.
and yeah, it the poor thing gets flooded. And but I feel very bad because we have somebody that's an apartment in the sub basement, and so then that gets flooded. um
Wow.
yeah,
That's such a problem.
yeah, and I told the
Mm.
landlord, I was like, well, if he gets flooded every single time, like maybe like you can give them time to find, like, I just feel bad that they're dealing with flood damage like all the time.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, well, maybe that's not a good place for an apartment. I mean,
Ooh.
yeah, because it's a lot of damage. Oh no. Synth says, we just learned we can have tornadoes here near Denver. I had no idea there was a tornado up on Pikes Peak a little while ago. Oof. Yeah, I didn't know we could have tornadoes here in New York City. So I thought that, because of like urban areas, like I thought that, I guess it's like a old wives' tale or something where, oh yeah, tornadoes, like the winds can't pick up like speed, and it can't like stay whole, essentially,
Mhm.
as it passes through like a lot of buildings. And that's a lie. So
I know. They're
um
so unpredictable. And now with, this climate problem, you can never depend on, what it's going to do for your area because they can appear anywhere.
yeah,
If it's not tornadoes, it's the rain spouts that can do damage also.
yeah, and it's yeah, no, it's terrifying, and the damage that they do.
Yeah.
So many people, and it went into Queens, and so
Mm.
this was several years ago, but holy moly, that did some damage. It took people's roofs off.
Oh yeah.
There was a big church that I always, it was literally across the street from where I worked at the time. And the steeple came down, and it our favorite hot dog vendor, he would always be at that corner. And he wasn't there that day, thankfully.
Yeah.
And the steeple came down right on his spot. It was so much damage from that tornado. Um, and it always I was like, oh wow, I always thought that that wasn't even a possibility, and apparently no. It can absolutely. Um, oh, um, Adeline, yes, great question. So can on a newly purchased bromeliad, sure. If you happen to know what kind of bromeliad, I mean, so in terms of kind of adjusting a brand new bromeliad, so definitely knowing the type is gonna be very helpful, because some bromeliads prefer a lot more light than others. Um, so usually you can go right with like Eastern light, or pulled from a Western window, pulled slightly from a Western window tends to work okay. Um, yeah, and in terms of watering, again, depends on the bromeliad. Um, so some bromeliads, like the cup bromeliads, you will actually have to fill the center. Um, there's like a center, uh, I guess it really is a cup kind of in the center, um, where you would have to fill that up in order for it to adequately kind of dispense water throughout the plant. With other bromeliads like Cryptanthus, um, some of the oh my gosh, the name just escaped me. Norellid, Norigelia? Oh my gosh, the name escaped me. But some of those, they do have very shallow roots. They're meant to be clinging to trees and whatnot. But they do pretty well if you kind of water what the substrate that they're in, and then that's good. Um, I would be very, just kind of look at, there have been a lot of cases I've seen lately of folks getting bromeliads, and sometimes they have weevils. So if they're coming up from Florida especially, so sometimes they're grown, you know, like not inside of a greenhouse. It's kind of like an outside nursery. And so there is a weevil that specifically attacks bromeliads. And so I've already seen like 3 people just talking about that. And so just, just kind of keep give them a good inspection to make sure that you don't have any hitchhikers or anything on there. But those weevils only affect bromeliads. But if you have other bromeliads, then that could be an issue, because if it happens to be, let's say, a female with eggs, and then it can just be a horror show for your other bromeliads, because they feed on them. And speaking of horror show, has anyone here on the East Coast have you been seeing these lantern flies? I mean, it's crazy. There was videos from different parts of Manhattan where um the lantern flies, there was just like so many of them. I've been seeing a lot, but not as much as I saw in those videos. Uh, but yeah, as we were walking, even from the Met to the train station, there were lanternflies climbing on building walls. They were
Mm.
flying. There were dead ones as you walk to the subway, but then live ones just like walking in the street. It was crazy. I think Brian sent me one of the videos. Um, but there's just so many. Absolutely. horrifying. And these, and I guess the one big problem is so the parks department and folks, they did put out like, hey everyone, squash them if you see them. But then the problem is that some people I have seen posting on different forums, and they're like, they're just bugs, they're fine, they're not going to do anything, they're harmless. And yes, they're harmless to us, but if we allow them to continue to spread at this capacity, this is what's going to allow them to move to other areas, and potentially do serious damage to crops. Like, they're all over everyone's grapevines here, and these are just like, regular people not selling them commercially. And it's they're not doing it commercially yet. They're getting completely bombarded. And so what do you think's going to happen when they start to get to, these areas where they are doing it commercially?
Mhm.
But look at this. I mean, they're everywhere here in New York City right now. And this is how they look when they're little. And then the second stage is this red with dots before they become this like adult stage here. Um, but it was, oh, here we go. This is one of the videos that Brian sent me. So all those dots. Look at that.
Nice.
Those are lantern flies. Look at them. They're everywhere. I think they might be attracted like to the building probably because of the lights, or maybe even some, I don't know, the heat generated. I'm really not sure. But they're attracted to the buildings, and they're everywhere. They're everywhere. So, oh yeah. Look at that.
Wow.
Look, she's running. There.
Are these just in New York City right now?
Yeah, these are videos here in New York City.
So they're not in other parts of the country? They're
Oh,
just
they are. Oh, they
Oh,
are.
yeah. Pennsylvania has gotten hit really bad. This is the second year in a row. And what they do there is attack the inside of the tree under the pulp, and they kill the tree. That evidently it dies. So I think that they're warning all the residents to. I'm not sure if they've come up with a trap, like they have the bug traps in the trees. I think that they might have, and they're giving those out to hang in your trees. So it will hopefully deter the spread. So
Yes.
if that's, it's just a mess. It's just terrible. Trees are dying.
Yeah. And they have, there is a trap that you put, it's like a band around the tree,
Mhm.
and that it catches them. And so it's put on, moment just like temporarily right
Mhm.
now. So they become adults. Here in New York City, they become adults around July. So
Mm.
it was like
Mhm.
late July where they started maturing to their adult stage, and now they're kind of full force. But I've seen them here on cherry trees,
Yeah.
not only on Ailanthus, which is the tree of heaven, which is one of their host species.
Mhm.
So we have a lot of tree of heaven here. It was introduced, and it's very abundant. We even have one in our yard, in our
Oh,
building, so they're everywhere. Um, and so they're all over those trees. And then yeah, I've seen them on cherry trees. I've seen them on oaks. I've seen them on oaks. A lot of the younger trees too, of the smaller trees that have been planted. They were all over a ginkgo that was planted a few blocks over. That's like a very young tree. So yeah, and my neighbor on the corner has like this huge thing of grapes, like a whole canopy thing of grapes, and they were just covered. Um, so yeah, it's getting Yeah, and oh my gosh, Terry says we were having breakfast at the outdoor cafe here in Basking Ridge yesterday, and they were landing on the table. Yeah, whenever I head over to the WeWork to do just some work, they have a balcony, which is that's why I like to head out there sometimes if it's a really nice day, because I can just take my computer, work on the balcony. And they were just like coming they were just landing. And again, they're harmless. They're not gonna bite you or anything, but it's like if you're completely unsuspecting, they just land on your face, they just
Oh.
like fly into your face. They just will land right in front of you onto your computer. So yeah, there's a lot. It's a lot. I did see that some folks were posting that they saw and they actually caught video of some praying mantises, because there are actually there's a big population here of Chinese praying mantis that was introduced as well. And it turns out, well, these are the lanternflies are from Asia, and so it's a recognized food species for them, and so they have been catching them. But I mean, at the rate that they're populating, it's we would need like an army, an army of praying mantises. But yeah, it's pretty bad. Um, Oh, and Cynthia says we had an inundation of biblical proportions of grasshoppers this year. My neighbor got really upset when I killed one. The leaves on grass, bushes, and flowers, oh no, are full of holes. Much prettier and smaller hoppers, and then the huge ones we had in California. But what the heck? Yeah, I saw that there was issues with grasshoppers, I think even locusts, so um yeah, this year there's been a lot. There's been a lot of insects in really large proportions. And I mean, with the weather kind of changes, maybe it's just been a little bit more agreeable. I'm not sure. Maybe, with the growing season, I think the growing season started a little bit earlier here. I know definitely in New York City, um it got warmer really fast, and so things were blooming a little bit earlier. Plants were coming up a little bit earlier than they usually do, and so that means that the growing season is a little bit more extended. um I mean, hey, if it gets cold sooner though, it's gonna cut it short. But I know we did have a couple like weeks in the beginning where we did have, vegetation already up and coming out much sooner than expected. So I'm wondering if maybe, having access, if they emerged, the young eggs, that hatched, and then they had food pretty early on. And I don't know, would that have affected anything? I don't know. But it just seems that this year specifically, I've seen so many of these. Yeah, it's just getting worse and worse. um Oh yeah, and Amy says, and then there was a cool down in the East Coast after that early warm up. Yes. Yeah, we had a warm up and then that cool down. Um yeah, and then it got warm again. So I don't know. I don't know. I know last year we did have an early warm up and then a frost hit, which I was afraid was going to happen again this year. It cooled down definitely this year, but not as cold as it had gotten last year. Because last year, a bunch of magnolias were blooming. And then we had that night where we had like a frost, and all of the magnolia trees were all brown because of all the flowers got burned. A bunch of cherry trees also, flowers got burned. So it wasn't that bad this year, but yeah, well, we'll see. We're I'm it's getting pretty crazy right now. Um but yeah, so I wanted to actually show you guys. Let's see here. Doo-doo-doo. So just a quick thing on city trees that I had put together, um just to Here we go to show you. Oh, Amy says, I was taught that burned flowers produce nicer blooms the following years. Ooh, I've never heard that. That's pretty neat. Yeah, I hope that's the case. I mean, they were certainly gorgeous this year, but I felt they didn't last as long this year, but um yeah, at least they weren't burnt. I felt so bad. My neighbor has this gorgeous tulip. Uh-oh, I froze. I froze. But yeah, she has this gorgeous tulip magnolia tree. Uh, it's just majestic and really beautiful blooms. And to see that whole tree turn brown last year, oh, that broke my heart. And I had taken a picture of it. I took a picture of it like right before. It was like a day or two before it actually happened, unknowingly. And it was so sad to see it so brown. Oh, here we go. So Adeline put for the bromeliad. Looks like a oh, bilbigiand. Mew. Which says that they flower up to 6 months and the plant is 5 to 6 inches tall, 4 inches. Oh, it's a clay looking container, but the research I did say to put the plant in a shallow container. Yes, definitely. If it's true, there won't be room for pups. Ah, yes. So the reason that you would want a shallow container is you don't want a lot of substrate in there, because bromeliads, they don't actively use all that substrate. They might end up actually only using maybe 1 to even 3 inches of substrate. Sometimes some bromeliads will make longer roots. But for the most part, it's very shallow. And so they don't need all that extra substrate. So what ends up happening when folks really soak up that substrate with water, there's like extra substrate in there retaining water that then can cause the base of the bromeliad to rot. So yes, shallow containers tend to be better. But in regards to pups, yeah, there wouldn't be that much room for pups if you do have a much more shallow container, but I mean they will adapt to, so usually these they'll kind of the pups, the position of growth might change and it might actually work out, because usually these are fused to tree limbs and they're still able to put out their pups. So it might be okay if you switch to a shallower pot. I mean, it definitely increases your success if you switch over to a much more shallow pot, because the possibility that you might experience rot with the larger container is exponentially higher than if you use a much more shallow one. But I mean it should be able to still generate pups. So they might end up coming out at an odd angle. But I think that it'll still try to make pups regardless of how shallow it is. But yeah, so I would try that. Oh,
Oh, excuse me. So
no,
what
no.
size of a container would you think it would be better if it was like more of a rectangle?
Um, I mean that could work. And you said it's a 4-inch pot, a 4-inch. So what, like, so that's like a 4-inch. How, if it is it very deep, or is it, because maybe something about,
About there.
yeah.
Yeah. That's about the size that it's in right now. But
Oh,
it doesn't have very much room on the sides. There's very little room, and the research that I did, it sounds like you either would put the water inside the cup, but if it's flowering, do you still put it inside the flower?
oh no, so not for those. They're I'm trying to remember the species of the cup one. because there's a group that do need you to fill up that cup. But for those that they don't have kind of like that cup formation, that they're much more elongated, and then they create those flowers. So those you don't usually have to fill any. There's
And
no,
then you can put it around the plant.
yeah, you can
Yeah.
kind of water the base, and they're
And
good
it
to
says
go.
about once a week.
I would let it dry. So if it is drying every week for you, if in your home there's like a lot of light and it's warm, so it's drying relatively quickly, then yes, yeah, you could totally do every week or so.
So what kind of a window did you say would be best for that kind of a plant?
Yes, eastern windows are great. Western windows, if pulled slightly away from the window, or you could keep a bromeliad in a western window, like from morning to early evening, and then around, if you're home, and then around 5 p.m. you can kind of pull it away, because usually western windows you get golden hour around that time, and it's like it makes like some really intense light that can burn plants. So if you do have a western exposure, just as long as you move the plant away in the early evening, or if you're like, oh no, I'm not going to be home, I can't remember to move the plant, then like a sheer white curtain, if you have like a very sheer curtain, then you can keep the plant there, because the curtain will diffuse that light. It won't be
Yeah,
as
like right
strong.
now I have it on my dining room table, and it's a beautiful east window, but it's not close to the east window. It's on the other side, like it would be at least 10 or 12 feet
Mm.
on the other opposite wall from where the window is. I might have only had it for a day or two, and it seems to be happy. But I was just wondering if it certainly couldn't be getting too much light there. And they're
No.
talking about or under a shade tree, so it's kind of confusing, because it sounds like it would like a fair amount of light, but yet if you put it under a shade tree or on the side of your room where the sun isn't coming directly to it, you wonder, is that going to be enough sun?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, with the eastern exposure, it's a really nice amount of light. So if you do have it on a window and it's on that path where, it's hitting the plant directly, it should be fine. It's just with the western exposure, the western exposure can just get a little bit more intense. And so yeah, so then that can cause like burning, like you might get like burn spots on the plant. So certain plants love the western window. They can be right up against it and they're totally fine. Like I have like my snake plants. I have like not my regular aloe. So my aloe vera, she turns orange when I put her in my western window. So I have her pulled slightly to the side and she's green and she's happy again. But I have my salmon aloe, which is much thicker and more bristly. That's right up against my western window. It's so happy that way. So yeah, some plants love it. But with the bromeliads, again, some really like highlight situations, because they're literally in the tree canopy, they're getting straight light. And then there are some that they need a little bit of shade, or they're gonna burn. Or they're gonna burn.
Be
So yeah.
okay to leave it in that container that it's in right now?
I would leave it in there for now, and just kind of see how long it takes to dry out. So if it's steadily drying out within a week, it should be good. Oh, thank you. It should be good. But if you're seeing that, okay, it's been more than a week, it's almost 2 weeks, and my substrate is still really soaked, then that will be the best indicator to say, okay, maybe this isn't the best container. Or also the substrate that they're using. Can you see if is it like orchid bark that they're using, or is it soil?
Yeah, it's orchid bark along the
Okay.
top. yeah.
Okay. So hopefully it's a nice chunky mix. And so it should be okay. If you know, again, just kind of wait a week without watering it and check to see, all right, it's still wet, then you might have to kind of like, all right, so that might be decision time. um and yeah, if it's over a week and if it's still soaked, but yeah, hopefully yeah, it's
Okay, so it also says to soak it well. So would you agree when it does need water to soak it well, or just to lightly soak it?
Oh no, you can soak it well. With orchid bark too, you can do like a bottom watering with orchid bark. And so it's just
Yeah,
it's
the problem is this container doesn't have holes in the bottom.
Oh.
It's a really nice looking clay type of planter, but I looked underneath and there isn't any holes in the bottom, so I don't know if they maybe have pebbles in the bottom or what, because I can't tell.
Oh. And is there no nursery pot inside of the clay pot? It's
Oh, no,
definitely
it's just
it's just in there.
straight in that pot.
Hmm. I mean, clay is at least a good sign because it's much more porous. So if it was, let's say, like plastic or ceramic,
Yeah,
then that's bad because that'll retain a lot of water. But yeah, it's difficult if there's no holes, because yeah, how would you even get? So then the likelihood for rot increases again with if there's no. I mean, what you could do is you could water it evenly, try to get like around all the edges so
yeah.
that it's like an even soak. And then you could kind of hold the base and like hold down any substrate and then tip the pot so that all the excess water
Excess water runs out. Yeah, yeah.
runs out. Yeah. That might be the best way to go about it, because otherwise all that extra water, so you could kind of water it around, let that sit for a few minutes, maybe 10-15 minutes, and then just get rid of any excess water.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And that should be good to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot.
You're very welcome. Oh, here we go. Deanna says, I wanted to ask about homegrown tomatoes. Sure. I wanted to, sorry, the chat moved. Here we go. I started some seeds from aroma tomato. I planted them and some grew nicely, but never flowered. What have I done? Oh, yeah. So in terms of flowering, so that might be something to do with energy. So sometimes if you get some tomato plants that end up kind of growing like really tall, or some people will put like what's it called? The trellises. And they can grow like that, but then they're not putting out that flower. Sometimes it just means they haven't um kind of they have their energy otherwise occupied. But I mean, you could try to, there's a couple things you could try. You could try a slight pruning to stimulate some more growth. Um do you know the lighting?
Yeah, they sit on my back porch, which is a western exposure.
That's a nice amount of light.
Yeah, it is. It gets the full sun for a few hours from morning to afternoon. And I did try to trim like suckers off of the plants, but still they just grow real tall and lean looking, and actually never flowered. Yeah.
Huh.
So I kind of gave up on them unless I try it again, and down here I can store them anytime actually. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because yeah, you're in Florida, right?
Right.
So
Right.
you're so lucky. I really envy like Florida's growing season, because
Right.
like, oh yeah, I started seeds and I'm like here in February, like even early February or late January. I'm like, I still have to wait. I can't start seeds. But yeah, no, then I'm not sure. Ooh, That one's interesting.
Mhm.
I have a few books on growing like container growing for different types of veggies like well tomatoes and things like that. So let me see if they mention anything, because yeah, the only thing I would think is if it wasn't getting enough light, or maybe a nice trim to kind of rechannel out that energy. But if you're that's all I could think of. So let me do some further
Yeah, I
investigation.
had sent, Amy had sent the message to me as saying, if I may repeat this, Amy, about trimming the plant. She's an avid trimmer and she knows which ones flower quickly. So she's really lucky to be able to, tell the difference between all those tiny little seeds that are popping up, It's really, really kind of neat.
That is really, really neat.
Not so much that, it's also
Well,
that you have to know whether or not your plants are even fertile. Not all the plants that you get from the commercial tomatoes that you buy at the stores are going to give you fertile. They may plant, but they may not flower.
yeah, okay.
Good point.
That's what
It's
I
fun
want.
to try, though.
I wanted to mention that too, that when you're buying the plant and saving the seeds, those plants are hybrid. So you really don't know what you're getting. We did that one year. We planted some pumpkin seeds just out of curiosity. And we had a lot of beautiful things, but not one of them looked like a pumpkin. And every vine had something different on it. So when you're doing that with a hybrid plant, you don't know what you're going to get.
Well, you didn't happen to get any tomatoes, did you, Mary? That's funny. Yeah, it is fun to try to, sprout the seeds. It's kind of neat to watch them.
If you want to sprout seeds and grow your own, you should get in touch with people who save, they have the old seeds. What do you call those?
The heirloom seeds.
Heirloom varieties where you have the real original seeds, and then you save
Oh.
those and propagate them.
Yeah, okay. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, that reminds me with apples too. So that was something I learned earlier. I thought that you could, just you had like this really great like honey crisp, and you could go ahead and just plant the seed and you would get honey. No, you don't.
You might get some beautiful apples, but they won't necessarily be that. Yeah,
exactly. They wouldn't be that. And yeah, we had some orchards. So I went to a school with an agriculture program, and so we had different orchards and with our apple orchard especially, like when folks be like, oh, we can bring seeds and stuff, and they were like, that's not gonna work. We'll have maybe a lot of apples that might be good for cider. but they won't necessarily be these like gorgeous apples, and they're not gonna necessarily taste just like this one. It's gonna end up looking and growing very, very differently. So, yeah, it's really cool. There's a book, I haven't started it yet, but it's about it's like heirlooms and genetics or something like that. I'll find the title and I'll post it up. Oh gosh, I don't know where I put it, but that's one on my to be read list. That really dives into that, and so that's something I definitely want to explore a little bit more.
Wow. Has anybody ever tried the fried zucchini flowers?
No.
You pick off the flower before it turns into the fruit, and you dip them in a batter and lightly fry them, and they're really good. And my neighbors used to do that all the time when they were growing their vines. They'd pick off the flowers, some of the flowers, and then do the process of frying them up, and they were nicely. It's an old Italian dish, and you can look up the different recipes for it. Just fried zucchini flowers.
That's
Really
awesome.
nice. They're a long type of a flower, and it kind of looks like a flag. The flowers, the flags, the lilies that are called flags.
Oh yes, yeah.
This kind of looks like that in the beginning, but they stay closed. They stay almost closed. So you just batter them up and fry them, have them as a snack, or even a plate of them as a dinner.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like flower fritters. I've had dandelion fritters, and I do want to try a recipe for oh my gosh. Oh, here we go. Wild carrot fritters.
Wow,
Yeah.
nice. Kim is saying she stuffs them. What do you stuff them with, Kim? Do you have ricotta stuffed zucchini flowers? That would be good too. Maybe you can bake them, or maybe not. I don't know how they would be baked.
Oh, you can use
Oh,
cheese.
cheese and meat. Boy, I never had it that way. That's nice.
That is so cool. Yeah, that'd be fun. We should swap recipes.
Good idea. Plant recipes.
Yes, please, yeah, folks. And Doug was asking about the chat. So for the recorded version, it doesn't show the chat. But you can definitely save the chat at the end. You can click on save chat and to save it. Yeah, so that you'll be able to check it out later. Let me see here. Oh, and Amy asks, if bromeliads grow off of wood, would you grow one on wood as part of a plant installation, somehow like not huge? I mean, you could definitely, if you wanted to experiment, and you bought a bromeliad, and you have like a nice piece of wood. I mean, I would recommend something like a cedar, maybe a cedar plank. The issue with driftwood that I've come through personally, using driftwood, is that it can mold. And so especially if it's like really humid, it's one thing if it's a little bit drier outside, but during like the really humid summers here, that driftwood, with the plant, the sphagnum and stuff, it actually starts to mold. I've had that issue. So driftwood, I don't think would be the best. But maybe like a cedar plank or something like that, where it's kind of like an antifungal type of wood, and to put your bromeliad on there, yeah, you can totally do something like that, absolutely, because they do grow on like live branches, in the wild. So yeah, you can absolutely do that. Oh gosh. Tanya says, I have a bromeliad in my bathroom in an eastern window, 3-inch shallow pot in dried out soil. I got it from Home Depot. I never remember to water it. I keep waiting for it to die until I discovered 2 pups last week. Very resilient. Yes. They can be very resilient. There's so many different types of bromeliads, and some are like Cryptanthus, for instance, can go much farther, like much, the word just escaped me. It can go through longer periods of drought. That wasn't the word I was trying to find, but yes, it can go through, you can kind of forget about them by accident, and it's fine. Cryptanthus are good for that. What other bromeliads? Just ones with like thicker leaves, they tend to be much more forgiving. Much more forgiving than other bromeliads. I mean, it's the same with air plants. So air plants are in the bromeliad family, and so some air plants, I have literally, like, especially the ones that are like pseudobulbs, like the medusas, I would accidentally, I'd put them somewhere. That's why I don't keep them. I used to keep a lot of my air plants like on shelves, kind of in random places, and I realized that was not a good decision, because then it's easier to forget. So it's just better to kind of have like spots for them where they live, and it just makes it easier to remember, because I was like, oh, I can put them on bookshelves and stuff, because they don't need soil, so you can put them anywhere. But that was but there were quite a few that were fine, like like the medusas, like Medusa caput, they were totally fine, because they can go longer periods without water. But the smaller ones, like the Ionanthas, were not so lucky. And so that's why I keep some of my air plants like here. I have them like down here, and then I have them in the kitchen. I have these globes that hang, that I have them in, much better. But yes, some can be very, very forgiving. And Terry says, I have honeysuckle growing in an 8-foot trellis on the patio, overgrowing actually. Every time I've seen berries all over it. First time I've seen berries all over it. At the end of the summer, how much should I cut back? Underneath, all of the stems are bare. Yeah, well, honeysuckle, I mean, wow, honeysuckle, you can cut it like down. I mean, you could just, if you, since you have it on the trellis, I mean, if you wanted to kind of cut it back to where the trellis starts, you could do that. So you can just kind of cut back to a node. They grow honeysuckle vines, like they'll, don't worry about that. That'll come right back. So yeah, they're pretty, but first time seeing berries all over it. So maybe, yeah, maybe it's I'm not sure how long it takes them to mature. So that could be it. That it's finally matured, or I'm trying to remember if honeysuckles are dioecious or monoecious. So I'm trying to remember if they have male and female flowers on the same plant or as part of a perfect flower, or if there are male and female plants. And that escaped me. I can't recall. So it could just be that maybe they were just successfully fertilized this growing season. So that's potentially why. And then Doug asks, for foreign or out of country plants, fruits, vegetables, they are irradiated and could be sterile. That's a possibility. There could be. I mean, yeah, I know that there are a lot of plants, a lot of vegetables that you can purchase, like that the seeds just wouldn't grow for you. They need kind of like an activator to stimulate growth. Otherwise they won't grow. Oh, the save chats feature is not available when using a smartphone. Okay, yeah. So I mean, Doug, if you'd like, just you can email me, and then I guess I'll save the chat and then I can send that to you. I'll see. I think there's some chats that automatically get saved when I save the videos, so I can see if that would be a possibility for me to include the chat in the folder for the replays. Amy, mold, nope. Yeah, no thanks. Yes. And then Kim, can you put them in sand? I have a small Zen sand garden in a dish for the air plant. Yeah. You can. So as long as it's a nice dry spot, so you don't want to put them so an air plant specifically, you don't want to put them on like wet soil because that's holding a lot of moisture. It can cause rot. You don't want to put them on something that's just holding water, like still water. You don't want to do that. If the sphagnum moss, if you have like sphagnum moss and it's like super soaked, that'll cause rot. But sand is fine. Pebbles. What I do is I put leca, but it's not wet. So when I put them on, I've had some of my air plants actually hold on to the leca, so their roots cling to the leca as well. So you could totally do that. Oh, Deanna just shared a
I had to look it up.
That's awesome for the fried zucchini flowers. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this could
Oh,
be good
yeah.
appetizers too.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I need to try this. I would love to try this. I need more flower recipes.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
More flower recipes, definitely. That's so cool. Oh yeah. All right. Okay, so I quickly wanted to just show you guys. Oh, yes, nasturtiums. Oh my gosh. Yes, Kim, I agree. I tried them for the first time when I was like 14, 15, and it was at that agriculture school that I went to. And I just remember we were walking on the flower next to the flower border, and the teacher was like, all right, everyone, grab one of these flowers. And I was like, what? And it was my first time knowing about edible flowers. I before that, I mean, I didn't realize, you know, I mean, like I grew up drinking like linden tea, but I didn't realize that there were dried flowers in there. So for me, it was like you don't eat the flowers, right? You eat like the fruits, or maybe the plant, like the leaves or the roots. But it never until that point, it never occurred to me that you could eat flowers.
Mm.
And I remember having the nasturtium and going like, whoa, that's delicious. And the teacher was like, everyone take one. Take one, because he didn't want us to completely decimate the entire flower border. But that was so much fun. And yeah, after that, oh man, and I've you can buy edible flowers to use. You can get them fresh, you can get them dry. When we went to Germany for one of our friends, they got married in Germany, and they had this really amazing cake, and it was covered in dry flowers, and it was so beautiful. It was like blue cornflowers, calendula. I think there was marigolds. It was such a beautiful cake with all these flowers on it that were edible that you could eat. So definitely, folks, if you haven't had flowers in some capacity, dried or fresh, try to find some edible flowers, because it's really interesting. It's a really interesting thing to explore. All right, so I just wanted to show you, it's very quick, just a little thing about street trees, just because you know, after seeing the exhibit with the cypresses and stuff, and I was like, oh, you know, a lot of folks don't you know, I mean, Van Gogh became obsessed with the cypresses. I mean, it's there were so many sketches. He even in his letters to his brother, he was like, all I need is like cypresses and a starry night and I'm good to go. But he really became obsessed with cypresses for a while. And so I was like, oh yeah, you know, maybe I can talk a little bit about street trees, throw them a little bit of appreciation. So I was gonna very quick just share a little bit about street trees. And so for those of you who might not be aware, and so I wear a lot of hats. And so I do do a lot of work with the city, and so with like the conservation societies, with the New York Parks Department. So I've gotten a lot of certificates, and I've done a lot of programs and trainings under them. And so so I am like an environmental educator, of course, and I guide people around different parks. But through the city, I've been able to get my license to be a citizen pruner. So that gives me permission to essentially do work with the city trees. And so I'm not allowed to work with their roots, right? So the roots, it can go bad really fast. So we're not allowed to mess with the roots. So we can't, you know, cut into their roots, or if let's say a root was going into the sidewalk or something like that, we actually have to contact the city, make a report, and then they would send an arborist or somebody to come and take care of that. But we're not allowed to mess with the roots. But anything above the roots. So if we have any broken branches or limbs that are growing really low and that they can smack someone in the face, if any limbs are growing towards the street, where if a car were to try to park, it would get repeatedly wounded. So that's one big issue, is that if a tree, let's say, has a branch like that that's constantly getting hit, it's causing a lot of wounding to the tree, and that can create kind of like a perfect place for pathogens to take hold, because there's going to be this wound that isn't healing correctly. And so it's just best to kind of remove it, and so that we don't have that problem. But yeah, and pruning it back, sometimes certain types of trees, unfortunately, we have like a lot of like calorie pears, and we have some Bradford pears, and certain trees that the branches, they grow kind of like this, you know, and so they rub against one another as well. So we have to kind of trim that back. So So you can get permissions to do that. So if you're here in New York City, if that's something of interest, definitely check out the Citizen Pruner program. It's really a lot of fun. And they send out kind of calls for folks to show up at different places, and we show up in force and go chop and and clean up some city trees. So that is something definitely to explore. There's also the Super Stewardship program, and what I love about this program is while there are some basic kind of trainings that you have to go through to become a super steward, after you do become a super steward, it then branches out into different things you can do trainings for. And so I've been able to do care captain. So I'm the care captain for my neighborhood. So that's, with the city trees that are here. I've done my navigator training, and I am now a trail maintainer with the city. I take care of a trail here in Forest Park. It's called the Yellow Trail. But I did part one of a 2-part training for building kind of different things in parks. And so like building shelters, building kind of fixing trails in terms of like putting down things like to prevent the like water runoff and things like that. So like building structure training. So I've done part one of that. Excited to do part two, but they keep adding. And there's also one called for shorekeepers, which is always full every time I want to register. So but it's to teach you how to kind of be able to kind of spot areas of really intense erosion, take care of marine life management, basically of the shores here. So there's just so many ways. So I would definitely invite you to kind of check out to see if your city offers something similar, because these programs are amazing. And a lot of these, except for the Citizen Pruner, all the other programs are completely free. So it's really worth doing, really, really worth doing. So I totally recommend that you check that out. And yes, and I do these classes outdoors for all ages. So this is something I very much enjoy doing. The kids, it's always a kick, to take them out and to show them our friends when because we had gone there 2 weeks ago. So we were there on Saturday, and they live about 2.5 hours up from us. And they were telling us, oh my gosh, that after we left, their son now won't stop identifying wild carrot. So when they're driving, he's like, wild carrot, because he would ask me, he's like, what's this flower? What's this called? What's this tree called? And so I would tell him, and so they're like, he won't stop. So, and when we got there on Saturday, that was literally the first thing. Their oldest, he's about to be 7, and he came out of the pool. He made a beeline towards me. He's like, hi, I need to take you to this place because I need you to tell me what kind of plant this is. And then he took me towards, they have like some grapevines. And he was like, what's this? And I was like, red clover. He's like, okay, what's this tree? I was like, a spruce. Okay. It's just, he was just took me by the hand and was just leading me around like, well, what's that? It was great. So this is something you can share with folks of all ages, and I it's great. It's really a lot of fun to work with kids. But yeah, it's great. It's seriously great. So definitely get out there. You can join groups too. There's definitely groups that get together like through meetups and things like that for plant ID, if that's something that you want to explore further. And there's so many other programs too. And so like here in New York City, there's NYC H2O that focuses on the water cycle and our water system. So like reservoirs and things like that. How does water work? So I've completed training with them as well, and I do classes for them, and I lead walks for them. Again, it's really, really cool opportunity. The same with the Natural Areas Conservancy. They've invited me to do quite a couple walks through them, which is always a lot of fun, where I specialize with invasive species and their medicinal attributes. And so it's not, it's like, oh, this plant is bad, but rather like, okay, so this plant got introduced here, what can we do about it? And so that ends up being a big one. It's like, all right, well, what can we do with that plant? And also how to effectively remove the plant, because sometimes these plants might actually be choking out. Let's say we had done a pine planting, young pines, and they were getting overrun by mugwort. And so they're the only way, they grow with rhizomes, so they spread very quickly. They have a very intricate root network. And so, we were taught, well, actually the best way to remove them is actually technically not to remove them, but rather to just cut them down to the ground. Because if we remove them, we do create a vacuum. So it's basically you create kind of like a lot of disturbed soil where things that might be potentially worse might take hold. So it's just better to kind of cut them down to the ground. They won't grow tall enough to shade out the pine trees again that growing season. So it buys you just time. So for those pines to kind of just be able to accumulate more sugars, get more sunlight, because they were just dwarfed in comparison to the mugwort. So they were not getting any sunlight or anything. So sometimes, just kind of managing it rather than removing it tends to be the way to go. And otherwise, like with this lesser celandine in the photo, when you remove it, you have to take it roots and all, or you're kind of leaving it to just keep, creating more and more and more. But yeah, this lesser celandine is really bad in Forest Park. In Central Park, there's so much lesser celandine. But yeah, so just wanted to kind of give you that little bit of background. And oh yeah, and then as I said, lots of hats. And so with the I also have done some work with the Hastings Vine Squad, where they basically, you're on like a call list. And so when they need help on a really bad area, they kind of give everyone a ring, and we show up with our tools, and we can go ahead and attack, some like bittersweet vines or honeysuckle or things that have gotten really out of hand in a natural area where they're trying to do some reforestation work. Because some of these areas, I mean, the funds aren't adequately kind of allocated to these types of projects. So you really need volunteers. It just comes down to that. And some of these areas, they have not been touched, for like 30 years sometimes. And so these vines can get ridiculous. Like you can see even above me in the picture, there's some of those vines are crazy thick. And those are some bittersweet vines. And they look like young trees. Like that's how big those vines were. But they were just like bittersweet. So yeah, we actually showed up to this event. Somebody actually brought the power saws and things, because some of these vines were ridiculous, were absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, so if this type of work gets kind of really interesting for you, I mean, just try to see locally if there are any like restoration projects, maybe at a park where they're like, hey, we need volunteers, we will offer training. So some of these programs will offer training. They'll show you how to identify the plants. They'll show you how to remove them and do these types of things. So it's like baked into the program. Those are the best because it's just a one-stop shop. Some will say, in the description, we want folks that have experience. So try to find the ones that actually will kind of teach you, you learn as you go. And then even local parks groups. So see if there's any friends of groups. Sometimes there's like a friend of Astoria Park. There's like a friends group where these folks are volunteers that come together to take care of the park. So that might be something. And yeah, and any trainings, try to see if there's any trainings in your area, sometimes offered by your like parks department, to see if yeah, you'll get some nice free work through there. The parks department actually offers these for free. So I will post up the links, but you can actually download these types of, this is specific for New York City, but it really works a lot for like the Northeast. and a bunch of different city trees that are often used, or trees that you might find in our local parks. So I wanted to just show you that because it's free and accessible. Oh yeah, this was there we go. So I just wanted to kind of show you a little bit. And so just some benefits of having street trees. Not only do street trees really help kind of capture all of that extra water during storms. So we have tree pits. So someone had asked last week what was a tree pit. And so that's basically just that little, square, sometimes bigger, hopefully bigger, kind of rectangle, that little plot of land that the tree is sitting on, that has its main roots in. So that's the tree pit. And we actually have to do a lot of care to that tree pit. So it needs aeration, because what happens is that it can become kind of like concrete, and then it'll basically have the opposite effect. The water won't go in, it can't penetrate the substrate, so it just kind of fills up the tree pit, floods, and kind of it doesn't work. So aerating your tree pits are definitely going to help with this. But they can capture a lot of water. And I know here in our city in New York, they've been putting a lot of rain gardens. And so these are areas, they're a little bit much more sunken in. And then they purposely put water loving plants around the tree, so that it can take on large capacity of water during, like, when it's raining, when there's a big storm, that can then soak up that water and just offset what's ending up in our sewer system, because that can get pretty taxed. It gets pretty full, and then what ends up happening is that all that runoff water, that's building up in our sewers, ends up having to be dumped. Because if not, it kind of goes backwards. So if you've seen like water go back kind of out, it's horrible. So what ends up happening is the city has to kind of release it into our waterways, like into the East River, for instance. And that's all like garbage and just things we don't want to have in our in our rivers. But it can't deal. So increasing rain gardens, increasing the care that we're giving towards street trees can help offset having to do that. It also lowers the temperature. Have you ever been on like one side of the street where it's getting full sun and there's no shade, and then you cross the street and it's getting the same amount of sun, but there's trees, and it's just a very noticeable difference. It's several degrees lower. And yeah, and then with the heat island effect, so that's when there's this happens a lot in urban areas. There's a lot of buildings clustered together, and we just retain that heat. And so it might be like snowing, another borough over, but then Manhattan is just, it's like, it has like its own microclimate. So that can definitely happen. And then in terms of like energy costs, so having trees that provide shade, of course, they're blocking what sun could have been entering your home. So you find yourself, maybe you're not putting the AC on as much, or it's just keeping your home at a much lower temperature. They help capture particulates in the air as well, helps lowering air pollution. Of course, providing food and habitat. The only issue there is that there are a lot of street trees that just are not native to the area. So like, for instance, here in New York City, we have a lot of like the Japanese scholar trees. There are a lot of ginkgos, which are beautiful, but not necessarily eaten by local wildlife. We have a lot of like the Chinese rain tree, which is gorgeous again, but isn't it's just not providing food. And so there has been, I went to a really great talk by Doug Tallamy, who wrote Bringing Nature Home. He's written a bunch of really great books, and he was actually showing us some data that had been collected about chickadees in New York City, and just this depletion, that chickadees were now having only one chick. They were able to only successfully raise on average one chick to maturity, because there aren't enough native trees supplying food for caterpillars. And so that's their primary diet is caterpillars. And so because there's a less native trees, there's less amount of caterpillars, higher competition, and just not enough food for them to raise 2 to 3 chicks. And they're only raising one successfully, which is causing, so this is the black cap chickadee, which is bringing down their population because of that. And so if you can, just so that you know, in most cities, they do offer the ability, if let's say your tree dies or there's an empty pit, where you can actually request a street tree, but try to, and you can actually choose the tree too. So just try to see if possible to plant a native species, and that'll just help your surrounding ecosystem. There's also been really amazing studies about just the physical and mental health benefits of having trees in your neighborhood, having like planter boxes and things. It can just make people feel a lot just nicer, just in general. It can help reduce stress. It's something that's also part of what is called green infrastructure. And so these are just things to kind of offset that urban setting. And that can encompass a lot of things like capturing rain, helping to filter out air pollution. It's also something too that helps to create jobs. So if you have really great stewardship programs that the city is actually funding, it can end up actually being really good to have some street trees. And let me see. Here we go. And this was something that was really interesting that I did not know about until a few years ago. I went to this great lecture, and I'm trying to remember. I think it's called the Carey Institute. And so I was unaware of this, but here in New York City, for instance, there's what's called redlining, and so there's areas where they were considered kind of like undesirable neighborhoods, and so they wouldn't invest, the city wouldn't invest as much in those neighborhoods. And you can actually see these old maps where these districts were kind of highlighted in red. And so folks would not be investing in them. They wouldn't be, the real estate pricing, would be really much lower. But then they noticed that you could actually, if you took kind of a map and you superimposed it, which is what they were doing at the presentation, you could see that the amount of like street trees or green spaces in these non-red areas far, past the amount, surpass the amount of trees and green areas in these red spaces. And so it was kind of brought to the forefront, and folks were like, yeah, that's not fair. And so trying to kind of, stop like not investing in these areas. So there's been a lot of growth since then. It's been, ongoing, but trying to make these areas much more greener, give them access to green space, and of course invest in them, because there were not as many trees. A lot of these areas too, there used to be more like dumping grounds for trash and things like that. There were higher rates of asthma, just medical issues, combined sewage overflow issues, so a lot of flooding in these areas. So yeah, you don't realize until you really start looking into this, just how sometimes just the city not investing in an area just really really bad outcomes. And then here I wanted to show which was really interesting, just how much canopy growth that we currently have in the city. So it's a couple years behind in this graphic, but Staten Island was what surprised me, because Staten Island is just such a tiny borough. But yeah, I was surprised how much acreage they have in trees. And I didn't even realize I had actually gone to another lecture on Staten Island, and I didn't realize how bad they have a really bad issue with deer. And the deer literally will swim from one side of Staten Island to another side. And they've had to put city ordinances for like culling. And what they have been doing is capturing bucks and neutering them, and then re-releasing them, and that has helped substantially rather than just hunting. So that's been something that I've been learning about Staten Island. I did not realize how many deer that they were dealing with, and this makes a lot of sense when looking at this. Like, well, they have a lot of green space. But yeah, so it's something I hope the percentage will drastically increase, of course. Yeah, and then this again was another really cool graphic from American Forests. I really recommend checking out American Forest. They offer like a quarterly magazine, and it's just really interesting. You can join to kind of give like annually or monthly as well to support different reforestation projects, but they just have so many great resources. But yeah, this was kind of further in my search, looking into redlining and finding areas that just were not getting the same amount of green space. You actually find that, yeah, those areas, the pricing of rent, for instance, was much lower in comparison, and it really brings up the real estate value of your home when you have green around you. And then just a couple things here. So some things that can cause stress to our trees, and this is something you can't really avoid when you're in an urban area. So pollution, a lot of that from the exhaust of vehicles. So that's unfortunate, but a lot of our trees that they're choosing are specific species. So in New York City, for instance, there's basically a 16 species that are typically used, that are available on that street tree list. And these are kind of tried and true species that are able to put up with these types of stressors. So excess heat, sometimes lack of sunlight. So especially if they're planted right by a building, they really lose a lot of that sunlight. And then the soil compaction. So I mentioned earlier that sometimes that soil can get so compacted, it's literally like cement. There's no openings. And so what ends up happening is it could be a torrential downpour, and that poor tree is actually not getting any water. And it's just completely sealed off. And so trees can actually die of drought, even when you're like, well, it's been raining, and it's just the water cannot get to those roots. So that's something that actually volunteers are able to do here in the city without any credentials. You are allowed to aerate your tree pits, and you're allowed to plant things like if you wanted to put some flowers or things like that in your tree pit, you are allowed to do that. And that's great because, again, by planting those flowers and things, you're aerating the tree pit in the process. And so that can really help the tree itself end up getting some actual some water in the long term. There's also, because of all the cement that are in urban areas, the alkalinity, the soil can end up becoming very basic, very, very alkaline. And also there's, in the areas, coastal areas especially, the salinity, there's a lot of salt. This can also happen during the winter because folks will throw salt on the ground to help melt those all that ice. And what ends up happening is that ends up in our tree pits, and so it can make the soil very, just the salinity in the soil increases drastically. Yeah, construction and damage. Have you ever seen trees that are next to a building that's being repaired, and they have the scaffolding like built around the tree? So these poor trees are constantly going through it. there's a couple trees here that they are doing some construction. I actually have to bring my loppers. So I'm thinking about recording it so that I can show everyone. But I have to do some pruning back of some trees here in the neighborhood. Best time to start to do it is towards the fall. And so yeah, I'm going to be doing some pruning because yeah, there are a lot of damaged trees in my area, unfortunately. We had a scaffold that was taken down, and some of those trees are still damaged, so I have to kind of cut that back. And then pathogens and pests. So it doesn't help, you know, that we do have a lot of introduced species in our area. But because of those wounds, so if it's not pruned properly, or it got, you know, maybe a car backed up and broke a branch, it's just making it much more susceptible to getting bacteria, fungus, just different types of pest species that kind of might move in. Oh, why did it do that? Here we go. And then here. So just the last bit is just street tree maintenance. So you can, you know, if you have a permit and there's no active warranty, and so when a tree is planted by a city, by an urban area, usually they put a tag on it. And usually the average amount of a warranty, so a lot of those trees are put in by a contracting company. So they're not city employees themselves, they're just kind of hired by the city. They put a little tag on it. And usually these trees actually have a warranty for 2 years. That's the average amount. Some can extend past that. But this is very important because we are not allowed to prune a tree within its warranty period. So if we mess up the tree at any point within that warranty period, it kind of nullifies the warranty. So if the tree dies within that 2-year period, which we obviously don't want, but if it does, the contracting company will, you know, replace the tree free of charge. But otherwise, otherwise we would, you know, end up being liable if we accidentally prune the tree, we didn't pay attention to the tag, and then and then something happened to the tree and they could blame you for doing it. So always check those tags if it's a new tree, a very young tree. And in terms of pruning, you would have to have a permit from your city to be able to prune back any city trees. But in terms of things like watering your tree, removing litter, soil aeration, mulching, adding mulch. Sometimes there's mulch fests. Here in the city, they do mulch fest after Christmas. So folks drop off their, will like leave, either drop off their Christmas trees or they leave the Christmas tree on the curb. And there's a truck that comes just to collect the Christmas trees. They run them through a mulcher, like the wood chipper, and then there's a bunch of mulch, and so folks are invited to go and pick up mulch, and you can pick up mulch, put it in your garden, put it in your tree pit, and all that excess is driven around and added to the tree pits as well. So it's a nice way to recycle those trees. So you can do that with no permit. And also weeding and flower planting. So these are all things below the pruning. Everything is you would be allowed to do just as a regular person without getting any credentials to do so. But it's a great way to take care of your city trees. So just something to keep in mind. And yeah, so I'll leave it at that. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to introduce you to some of these our city trees, some of the work that you can do with city trees. Kim says, I'm very sad I have to cut down 2 green ash trees by our house as they are dead, but the birds love the trees. Oh no, yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah, we have 2 green ashes right in front of our home. And I'm constantly like looking at them, trying to make sure that they don't have like emerald ash or anything like that, because that makes me so nervous. But oh man, yeah, if they have to cut them down. And yes, birds do tend to love dead trees. A lot of bird species depend on dead trees for food. A lot of like woodpecker species, for instance, they need the larva that grows in dead trees. And they'll also make their nests in dead trees as well. So, oh, that's really unfortunate. And ash trees are really taking a hit, that along with like elm trees, really taking a hit in their population. Oh man. And Kim says this year we had our first nuthatch family in the ash trees. Yeah. Yeah, I love nuthatches. I saw a bunch on Saturday. The white-breasted nuthatch. Beautiful. I just love the way that they just move on the trees. It's super cool to watch how they maneuver. Oh, Synth says Bradford pears can grow where the winters have snow and low temps. Yeah, so there are some Bradford pears that I've seen growing in I've seen them they're here in New York. In Pelham Bay Park. And there's another park. Oh, my phone is vibrating. Sorry. Oh, yes, I have a doctor's appointment later. I have something going on with my foot. It hurts when I walk for long periods of time. So I'm hoping my phone was just vibrating, reminding me I have my appointment later. But yeah, mostly we have calorie pears. And the issue with those types of like pear trees as city trees too is with the cold, with the freezing and like the weight of the snow, they have a tendency to like break. So they'll crack and break. And so they don't do very well because of all the snow and cold that we get, but they were still used for years as our city trees. They're not really planting them more now, but we have a lot of them. We have a lot of like calorie pears especially. And so it's just, yeah, you end up with a lot of damaged trees. But yeah. Doug, next week's topic. I'm not sure. Next week is usual is a Q&A. So I'll see if maybe I'll start it off with something. But yeah, next week's a Q&A. And so it's really just focused on answering questions. And yeah. And then Deanna, what evergreen flowering shrub can I plant along a walkway? And do you recommend mulching? I mean, yeah, mulching definitely. Just check the mulch because some mulch that's being let's say it's some conifer trees, like pine bark or something, that can make your soil very acidic, if I'm remembering correctly. And so you want to, if the plants don't love it very much, then they're not they're not going to be happy there. But other types won't skew it that that because the pine can kind of really offset your pH rather quickly. But in terms of evergreen flowering shrub in Florida, flowering shrub. That's evergreen.
Now, one that I thought of would be the azalea, but they really grow big. Is there a dwarf variety?
There are smaller azaleas. My first thought was rhododendron.
Oh yeah, they're beautiful, but boy, they're
beautiful.
huge.
Yeah, but they can get pretty large. I mean, you would just have to chop them back. But that flower is explosive. I love rhododendron flowers.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Yeah, that just take your breath away. But there are smaller azaleas, definitely.
Okay, I'll look into that then.
Yeah, and they're in the same family.
Yeah, they are, and they bloom long. They have a long blooming season, and they, bloom maybe a couple times a year down here. I'm not remembering exactly when, but I remembered that they did have a long blooming season, which is great. I love the deep red ones. They're gorgeous. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, no, the blooming, oh man, just
I know.
they're so beautiful. Oh, Judy says it's a holiday, Labor Day. Oh yeah. Um, I mean, I might still have class, yeah. I might still have class. I don't have any plans, and so I might just be home. So I mean, I'll hop on to do a Q&A. So if anyone wants to hop on, I'll just do a Q&A and hang out and answer questions.
Right.
So that'll be fine.
Cool.
But all right. Okay, and Doug, yes, I will save the chat, and then yes, just you can email me info at, let me put that here, urbangarden.eco. Meow to you too, Maple. And yeah, and then I can send you the chat if you're unable to download it yourself. So yeah, awesome. And so what I'll do is I'll put it up with the recording so that it's in there, the chat itself too, for other folks that might want to check that out. Oh, you're very, very welcome. Yeah, thanks so much for tuning in, everyone, and just hanging out. I really appreciate it. I hope your week is off to a good start. Gosh, we're about to hit September. Like the summer's basically over. It's just it's too fast. Time is moving too quickly. But, thank you so much, everyone, seriously, for coming and hanging out. And enjoy the rest of your week. And please, yeah, please stay safe. Yes, Kim. Yes, we're summer's till September 21st. Yep, that's my one of my brother's birthdays is on the 21st. So it's always like we know that's when summer ends. It's just his birthday, summer ends. It's like a happy occasion and a sad occasion. But yes, thank you, everyone. Seriously.
Okay.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
And
Bye.
thank you, Terry. Yeah, I'm hoping it's nothing. I'm like maybe I just like sprained. It's like in the arch. So as I walk, I feel like the muscle that's on the inner part. It's like the abductor or something muscle. And it keeps feeling like it's gonna snap. So it's like when I'm what are you doing? Are you all right, Maple? He just tried to jump on the kitchen sink and failed miserably. Are you okay? But yeah, so I don't know. So I'm thinking it might be like a sprain or something on the muscle. I was like literally looking at diagrams of feet. I was like, what muscle is there? Because that's what's hurting. So that's what I thought. It was plantar fasciitis. That's what I thought. But I don't know. I don't know. So they'll hopefully the doctor will tell me if it's that or if there's an issue with the abductor muscle. But yeah, it's like when I'm walking and it's just that point of the foot and it feels like it's like it's like super it feels almost like it's straight and it wants to break and it's really painful. But it doesn't happen all the time. It's only if I'm doing like a lot of walking. So I don't know. I'll let you know what I went like on a Googling rabbit hole trying to find out like what could it be. But yeah, I'll let you guys know. Hopefully,
Sure.
I hope it's not the tendon, Cynthia, but we'll see. Yes, and since definitely the older we get, the faster time flies. It does. No, Elle, I don't stretch my foot before an intense walk. I should definitely. So we'll see. Maybe I maybe I did something. Yeah, it is very important. I need to stretch more. I definitely need to stretch more. But all right, thank you so much, everyone. And I will let you know. Have a good one. Bye for now. And Terry, yes. That yes. I saw online about rolling it on a tennis ball. I'm gonna get myself a tennis ball and try that. Bye for now, everyone.